Jamal Robinson, a bright 16-year-old black student, walked through the bustling halls of Westwood High for the first time. He'd recently transferred from a smaller school where everyone knew everyone. Westwood was different, larger, more intimidating, and for Jamal, full of unknowns. He hoped to keep his head down, focus on academics, and avoid unnecessary attention. His mother, Dr. Angela Robinson, had accepted the principal position at Westwood, though few knew of their connection. To Jamal, this was a fresh start. As he settled into his first class, Jamal quickly noticed Mr. Thompson, his history teacher. Mr. Thompson, a stern man with sharp blue eyes and graying hair, was respected by many students, though some whispered he could be harsh. Jamal found his assigned seat at the back of the room, hoping to go unnoticed. Mr. Thompson's voice echoed in the classroom, commanding everyone's attention. Jamal could feel the intensity of his gaze as he observed the new faces in the room. During introductions, Mr. Thompson called on Jamal, who offered a polite smile and a few words about himself. The teacher's eyes narrowed slightly as he listened, and Jamal felt a chill run down his spine. Something about Mr. Thompson's expression made him feel uneasy. As the class continued, Jamal noticed subtle glances and sensed a quiet tension. He wasn't sure what it meant, but he hoped it was just nerves from being the new kid. By lunch, Jamal felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The cafeteria was crowded, and he scanned the room for a quiet place to sit. He finally spotted a table in the corner and made his way over, hoping to blend in. As he unpacked his lunch, a few students passed by with curious glances, but no one stopped to chat. Jamal's heart ached with the familiar pang of loneliness, yet he reminded himself that things would improve over time. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson observed her son from her office window, feeling a mix of pride and concern. She knew Jamal wanted independence, and she respected that. But as his mother, she couldn't ignore the subtle discomfort etched on his face. She had faith in his resilience. Yet a mother's instinct told her that Jamal's journey at Westwood would be anything but smooth. Her gaze shifted to the school hallways, her mind already forming strategies for ensuring a safe environment for all students. The day continued, and Jamal found himself once again in Mr. Thompson's class for his final period. The teacher called on him twice with pointed questions, each time with a slightly mocking tone. Jamal answered correctly, though he noticed Mr. Thompson seemed disappointed. As the class ended, Jamal felt the weight of unease settling in his chest. He left the room, casting a wary glance over his shoulder. Something told him Mr. Thompson would be a problem. Jamal returned home that evening, his mind racing. His mother greeted him with a warm hug and asked about his day. He hesitated, not wanting to burden her with his concerns. Instead, he focused on the positives, mentioning a few friendly classmates he'd met. Dr. Robinson smiled, sensing there was more he wasn't saying, but she respected his need for space. They shared a quiet dinner, each silently hoping tomorrow would be easier. As Jamal prepared for bed, he replayed the day's events in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that Mr. Thompson had singled him out. Lying in bed, he thought about the other students and how they seemed to be treated differently. He wondered if he was being overly sensitive or if there was something darker at play. With a sigh, he turned off the light, determined to approach tomorrow with a fresh perspective. Morning arrived quickly, and Jamal braced himself for another day. His mother dropped him off with a reassuring smile, her presence a source of quiet strength. Jamal walked through the school doors with his head held high, determined not to let anything or anyone intimidate him. Little did he know, this day would bring challenges he'd never anticipated, testing his patience and resilience in ways he'd never expected. As Jamal entered Mr. Thompson's class, he noticed a slight smirk on the teacher's face. The lesson began, and Mr. Thompson made a point of calling on him frequently, each question tinged with condescension. Jamal answered confidently, though he could feel the tension building. By the end of the class, he felt emotionally drained, unsure of what to make of Mr. Thompson's behavior. He walked out, casting another cautious glance over his shoulder, determined to stay strong. The whispers started by lunchtime, small remarks and glances from other students. Jamal couldn't understand why he felt like an outsider, yet he chose to ignore it, focusing instead on his studies. However, the feeling of isolation grew, and he found himself struggling to fit in. As he walked down the halls, he felt the weight of stares, each glance a reminder that he didn't belong. But Jamal was resilient, and he refused to let the discomfort break his spirit. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson sensed the subtle changes in her son's demeanor. She respected his independence, yet her heart ached as she watched him carry his burden alone. She knew that revealing her role as his mother would complicate things, but she was prepared to step in if necessary. Her mind was a whirl of strategies, quietly observing, ready to act when the time was right. Unaware of the silent strength standing behind him, Jamal faced each day with determination. Mr. Thompson's behavior became more evident, his subtle jabs turning into open mockery. Jamal endured, refusing to give Mr. Thompson the satisfaction of seeing him break. His strength became a quiet rebellion, a refusal to bow to prejudice. But the battle was only beginning, and Jamal had no idea of the powerful ally he had in his corner. The days at Westwood High began to settle into a rhythm, though Jamal's encounters with Mr. Thompson grew more intense. Each class seemed like a test of his patience, with Mr. Thompson finding new ways to question his intelligence or subtly undermine him. Jamal sensed the other students' discomfort, but no one dared speak up. Some classmates even joined in the snickers, perhaps trying to stay on Mr. Thompson's good side. Jamal endured silently, his frustration building with each passing day. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson noticed subtle shifts in Jamal's demeanor. She'd see him return home each day quieter than before, his usual energy dulled. Her heart ached, but she respected his independence, understanding that he was navigating complex emotions. She knew her role as a principal put Jamal in a difficult position, but she was determined to be there for him without overstepping. She reminded herself that sometimes silence speaks volumes. One morning, as Jamal entered history class, Mr. Thompson announced a new seating arrangement. To Jamal's surprise, he was moved to the front of the room, directly in Mr. Thompson's line of sight. The teacher's gaze lingered on him, a look of scrutiny that felt far from academic. Jamal sat rigidly, trying to ignore the sense of exposure that came with the front row seat. He knew he was under constant surveillance, and any minor mistake would be magnified. The lesson began, focusing on American history, a subject Jamal found fascinating. Yet every time he raised his hand, Mr. Thompson seemed to ignore him, favoring students at the back of the room. When he finally called on Jamal, his tone was laced with sarcasm. "Well, Mr. Robinson, since you seem to know so much, why don't you enlighten us?" The word stung, but Jamal held his ground, delivering his answer with quiet confidence. Mr. Thompson merely smirked and moved on. After class, a few students approached Jamal, some apologetically, others awkwardly. They expressed discomfort over how Mr. Thompson was treating him, though none offered to confront the teacher. Jamal appreciated their sentiments, but knew that words alone wouldn't change anything. He thanked them, hiding his disappointment and frustration behind a forced smile. The feeling of isolation grew as he realized he was truly on his own. By lunchtime, Jamal sat alone at his usual corner table, picking at his food. His appetite was nearly non-existent as he mulled over the morning's events. He could feel stares from nearby tables, some filled with sympathy, others with indifference. The walls seemed to close in around him, each glance a reminder of his outsider status. Jamal felt trapped, though he was determined not to let his frustration show. He'd faced challenges before, but this felt different, heavier. Dr. Robinson, from her office, watched Jamal's quiet determination. She admired his resilience, but knew the strain was taking a toll. She debated intervening, but knew she had to tread carefully. The balance between mother and principal was delicate, and any misstep could worsen Jamal's situation. Her mind raced with strategies, envisioning ways to support him without exposing their relationship. She was determined to be there for him, even if it meant staying in the shadows for now. Later that afternoon, during a staff meeting, Dr. Robinson observed Mr. Thompson. He spoke confidently about student engagement, sharing his methods with enthusiasm. Yet his words felt hollow, a stark contrast to the treatment Jamal described. Dr. Robinson bit her tongue, reminding herself to approach the situation with patience. She knew that change required tact and timing, and she was prepared to wait until the moment was right to make her move. As the days passed, Mr. Thompson's behavior escalated. He began assigning Jamal additional tasks, claiming they were to challenge him, though they felt more like punishments. Jamal complied, determined not to give Mr. Thompson the satisfaction of seeing him struggle. Each night, he spent extra hours on assignments, determined to prove himself. His grades remained impeccable, a quiet testament to his resilience, though he was exhausted. One evening, as he finished his assignments, Jamal's mother entered his room. She noticed the dark circles under his eyes, his usual spark dimmed by fatigue. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder, offering silent support. Jamal looked up, grateful for her presence. For the first time, he allowed himself to share some of his frustrations, though he avoided specifics. His mother listened attentively, her heart heavy, yet her resolve stronger than ever. The next morning, Dr. Robinson watched Jamal walk through the school gates, her heart filled with both pride and worry. She knew he was fighting a battle most students couldn't understand, yet she believed in his strength. As she observed him disappear into the building, she made a silent promise to herself. She would wait no longer. She was ready to intervene, though she knew it had to be strategic. Dr. Robinson began discreetly gathering information, speaking with students and staff members to gauge the school's culture. She noticed a pattern. Several students had expressed discomfort with Mr. Thompson's behavior, though few were willing to speak openly. She documented everything carefully, building a case. She was determined to bring about change, though she knew the journey would be difficult. Jamal continued to face challenges daily, but he drew strength from his mother's quiet support. He felt her presence, even if she remained in the background. Each day, he walked into Mr. Thompson's class with renewed determination, refusing to let the teacher's prejudice break him. Though the journey was far from over, Jamal was ready to face whatever came next. The stage was set, and Dr. Robinson was prepared to make her move. As Jamal pushed through each day, Mr. Thompson's behavior became more blatant. He would assign extra homework, criticize his work in front of the class, and often make veiled comments that left Jamal feeling uncomfortable. Mr. Thompson's constant scrutiny weighed on Jamal's confidence, but he resolved to stay resilient. The whispers among his classmates grew, with some noticing the unfair treatment, but too afraid to speak up. Jamal knew he had to stand his ground alone, yet the isolation stung. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson continued gathering information quietly, careful not to draw attention to her investigation. She'd noticed similar patterns of subtle bullying in Mr. Thompson's interactions with other students, particularly those from diverse backgrounds. She held on to this information tightly, understanding that revealing it too soon could compromise her plan. Her dedication to her son and her students kept her focused, and she felt a quiet determination to see justice served. One afternoon, as Jamal left Mr. Thompson's class, he noticed a group of students standing near his locker. They offered sympathetic glances, but their silence only intensified his isolation. As he closed his locker, a fellow student named Sarah approached him. Sarah, a white girl with a strong sense of justice, had been observing Mr. Thompson's behavior and was one of the few who seemed genuinely concerned. "Hey, Jamal," she began hesitantly. "I've noticed how Mr. Thompson treats you. It's not right. I think you're handling it really well, but have you thought about telling someone?" Her voice held a mix of concern and encouragement, and Jamal felt a surge of gratitude. Jamal shrugged, not wanting to burden her with his struggles. "Thanks, Sarah. I'm just trying to get through it. Besides, who would listen?" His words were tinged with resignation, though he appreciated her support. He felt a glimmer of hope, knowing that at least someone recognized his struggle. That evening, Jamal's mother noticed his quiet demeanor at dinner. She could see the toll the days were taking on him, and she decided to act subtly. She reached out to trusted staff members, gathering their perspectives on Mr. Thompson's behavior. She uncovered a history of quiet complaints, each brushed aside due to Mr. Thompson's reputation as a respected teacher. This realization strengthened her resolve. She would bring about change, no matter how long it took. In class, Mr. Thompson's antagonism continued. He assigned a group project, strategically placing Jamal in a group where he'd be isolated, knowing his classmates might hesitate to work with him. Jamal felt the sting of exclusion but pushed through, determined not to let Mr. Thompson's manipulation defeat him. He worked on his portion of the project alone, pouring his heart into it, knowing he had to rely on himself. Dr. Robinson, meanwhile, had gathered enough information to proceed with her plan. She scheduled a faculty meeting, subtly positioning her agenda to address issues of inclusivity and respect among staff. She kept her language broad, careful not to reveal her true purpose, but she emphasized the importance of fostering a respectful environment for all students. Her words carried a weight that left the staff thoughtful, yet no one suspected her true intentions. In Mr. Thompson's class, the tension between him and Jamal reached new heights. During a lesson on historical figures, Mr. Thompson directed a snide comment toward Jamal, questioning his ability to understand the material. Jamal clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay calm, but his frustration was palpable. He knew that speaking up could worsen things, yet the silence weighed on him, a reminder of the power dynamics he faced daily. After school, Jamal found solace in the library, a quiet sanctuary where he could escape the weight of his experiences. He buried himself in his studies, the familiarity of books providing a sense of peace. Dr. Robinson often checked in on him, her presence a silent reminder of her support. She knew he was struggling, but she also knew he was strong. Her love for him drove her to keep working in the shadows, building her case meticulously. One evening, Sarah and a few other students approached Jamal in the library. They sat down hesitantly, their faces a mix of concern and frustration. "We've all noticed how Mr. Thompson treats you, Jamal," Sarah said quietly. "It's not fair and it's not right. We want to help you." The words filled Jamal with gratitude, their support a balm for his weary heart. For the first time, he felt less alone. Together, the small group discussed their options, debating whether to approach another teacher or the administration. Jamal hesitated, knowing his mother was a principal. He feared that involving her might complicate matters, but he realized the importance of standing up for himself. The group left the library that evening with a newfound sense of purpose, a quiet determination to confront the injustice they'd witnessed. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson prepared for the next step in her plan. She documented every interaction, every observation, and every subtle act of prejudice she'd uncovered. She knew she was on the verge of exposing a deeply rooted problem within the school, but she also knew that her actions would ripple through the community. Her commitment to justice and equality fueled her resolve, and she was ready to bring the issue to light. As Jamal walked home that evening, he felt a renewed sense of strength. His friend's support had lifted a weight from his shoulders, and he knew he wasn't alone in his fight. His mother's quiet strength had been a constant presence, and though she remained in the background, he felt her unwavering support. The days ahead would be challenging, but Jamal was prepared to face them with resilience. The stage was set for a confrontation, one that would test both Jamal and his mother's resolve. The truth was close to being unveiled, and the quiet resilience they shared would prove to be their greatest strength. The morning air was thick with tension as Jamal entered Westwood High, feeling the weight of his decision to speak up. Encouraged by Sarah and his friends, he resolved to confront the injustice he was enduring. Though he had yet to decide on his next move, he felt a sense of determination to take action, a strength he hadn't felt in weeks. The prospect of exposing Mr. Thompson's behavior brought both fear and excitement. The idea of change was both foreign and necessary. In history class, Mr. Thompson's attitude was as cutting as ever. He called Jamal to the front to present his recent project, a history report Jamal had spent hours perfecting. The teacher's gaze was cold as Jamal began his presentation, his tone dismissive as he interrupted several times with challenging questions that seemed designed to trip him up. Jamal kept his composure, answering confidently, though he could feel the sting of humiliation every time Mr. Thompson sneered. Sarah and the others watched, their expressions showing a mix of anger and empathy. They knew what Jamal was enduring and had agreed to support him if he chose to take a stand. Their silent support was a comfort, a reminder that he wasn't alone. As Jamal concluded his presentation, Mr. Thompson delivered a curt, "adequate," before dismissing him back to his seat. Jamal clenched his fists, his resolve hardening with each cruel word. During lunch, Jamal gathered with Sarah and his friends at their usual spot. The group was small but tight-knit, each member offering a different perspective on the best course of action. Some suggested going directly to Dr. Robinson, while others feared retaliation from Mr. Thompson or the school administration. Jamal listened carefully, weighing each option, his mind racing with the possibilities. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson was preparing her own strategy, unaware that Jamal was building his own case against Mr. Thompson. She'd been gathering testimonies from students and staff members, piecing together a record of Mr. Thompson's discriminatory behavior. She knew her position required delicacy, and she was determined to handle the situation professionally, even if it meant keeping her connection to Jamal a secret. After lunch, Jamal decided it was time to speak to Dr. Robinson. Though he worried about involving his mother, he knew he couldn't endure Mr. Thompson's bullying alone. He approached her office nervously, his heart pounding as he knocked on the door. She looked up, surprised to see him, and her expression softened with understanding. She invited him in, her demeanor calm and encouraging. Principal Robinson," Jamal began, stumbling over his words. "There's something I need to talk to you about." He paused, gathering his thoughts, before explaining the situation with Mr. Thompson. He described the constant harassment, the subtle yet cutting remarks, and the isolation he felt. His mother listened intently, her expression shifting from calm to concern as he spoke. Dr. Robinson felt a mixture of anger and pride as she listened to her son's story. She admired his courage and resilience, but she was furious that he'd been subjected to such treatment. She knew she had to act, but she also knew that her position required careful handling. She reassured Jamal, promising that she would address the issue discreetly and support him every step of the way. The next day, Dr. Robinson scheduled a meeting with Mr. Thompson, keeping her tone professional as she raised concerns about his teaching methods. Mr. Thompson appeared defensive, dismissing her concerns with excuses and subtle hints at his seniority. Dr. Robinson listened patiently, noting his dismissive attitude, but she kept her emotions in check, determined to remain composed. After the meeting, Mr. Thompson returned to his class with a new sense of defiance. He viewed Dr. Robinson's questions as an affront to his authority and directed his frustration at Jamal, increasing the intensity of his harassment. Jamal bore the brunt of Mr. Thompson's anger, his resolve unwavering as he endured each new challenge. He was prepared to face whatever came next, knowing his mother was working behind the scenes. As the week progressed, Jamal continued gathering evidence, documenting each interaction and enlisting the help of Sarah and his friends to support his case. They each kept detailed notes, building a portfolio of Mr. Thompson's behavior that would be difficult to ignore. Their determination grew with each passing day, their shared goal binding them together in a common cause. Dr. Robinson, meanwhile, had begun to feel the weight of her dual roles as both principal and mother. She knew her position required professionalism, yet she couldn't deny the fierce protectiveness she felt toward her son. Her commitment to justice fueled her resolve, and she was prepared to take drastic measures if necessary. She reviewed Jamal's documentation, impressed by his thoroughness and grateful for the support he'd found among his friends. One evening, Jamal and his mother sat down together, reviewing the evidence they'd gathered. They discussed strategies, debating whether to present the information to the school board or confront Mr. Thompson directly. Dr. Robinson cautioned him against direct confrontation, knowing the risk it posed, but she respected his desire to stand up for himself. As they talked, Jamal felt a new sense of confidence, a belief in his own strength. His mother's support was a source of comfort, and he knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. He was no longer the isolated new kid. He was a fighter, ready to confront the injustices that had plagued him. The days ahead would be challenging, but Jamal was prepared. He knew that change required courage, and he was willing to fight for it. With his mother's support and the solidarity of his friends, he felt empowered to face Mr. Thompson's prejudice head-on. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test their resolve and reveal the power of unity in the face of adversity. Jamal arrived at school the next day with a renewed sense of determination. Armed with the evidence he'd gathered and supported by his friends, he felt ready to face whatever challenges Mr. Thompson threw his way. The tension between them had reached a boiling point, and Jamal knew that the moment of truth was fast approaching. He was no longer afraid, and the quiet resilience he carried gave him a new sense of purpose. In class, Mr. Thompson immediately honed in on Jamal, assigning him to lead a group discussion on a challenging topic with minimal preparation. Jamal's heart raced as he stepped to the front, feeling the weight of Mr. Thompson's scrutiny. But he refused to falter. He presented his thoughts with confidence, holding his ground even as Mr. Thompson tried to undermine him with leading questions. By the end of the discussion, Jamal felt triumphant, while Mr. Thompson's glare hinted at his growing frustration. After class, Sarah and Jamal's other friends congratulated him, their support a comfort in the tense atmosphere. Jamal felt a surge of gratitude for their loyalty, knowing he couldn't have endured this journey alone. As they walked down the hall, Sarah suggested taking their case to a counselor or another trusted teacher who could support their cause. Jamal agreed, seeing the need to expand their network of allies. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson was working behind the scenes, speaking with other teachers and gathering additional testimony from students. She had scheduled another meeting with the school board, preparing to present her findings. Her heart ached as she reviewed the evidence, each incident a painful reminder of what her son had endured. Yet, her resolve grew stronger, driven by the desire to protect not only Jamal but also every student in the school. Later that day, Jamal and Sarah approached Mrs. Winters, the school counselor. Mrs. Winters was known for her empathy and dedication to her students, and Jamal felt a glimmer of hope as he shared his experiences with her. She listened intently, her expression shifting from concern to anger as he detailed Mr. Thompson's behavior. Mrs. Winters promised to support them, vowing to bring their concerns to the administration. As word spread among the staff, more students came forward with their own experiences of unfair treatment in Mr. Thompson's class. Dr. Robinson received several anonymous letters from parents, each expressing concerns about the way their children were treated. She carefully documented each account, adding it to the growing body of evidence. The school community was beginning to awaken to the reality of Mr. Thompson's prejudice, and the pressure was mounting. The following week, Dr. Robinson convened a meeting with the school board, presenting the evidence she'd gathered. She spoke passionately, detailing each incident with precision, her words carrying the weight of her commitment to justice. The board members listened in silence, their expressions shifting from surprise to disbelief. Dr. Robinson concluded her presentation with a call for accountability, her voice firm as she demanded action. As the board deliberated, Mr. Thompson grew increasingly defensive, attempting to dismiss the accusations as misunderstandings. He argued that he held all students to high standards, insisting that his behavior was a reflection of his commitment to excellence. But the evidence was overwhelming, and his arguments fell flat in the face of the testimony against him. The board members exchanged knowing glances, their decision becoming clearer with each passing moment. Jamal and his friends waited anxiously in the hallway, their nerves on edge as they awaited the outcome. They whispered quietly, each reflecting on their experiences and the journey they'd taken together. Jamal felt a mixture of fear and excitement, his heart pounding as he considered the possibility of justice being served. He knew that regardless of the outcome, he had grown stronger, his confidence and resilience forged through adversity. Finally, the door opened, and Dr. Robinson stepped out, her expression both solemn and proud. She looked at Jamal, her eyes filled with love and admiration. The board had decided to place Mr. Thompson on administrative leave, pending further investigation. It was a small victory, but one that carried immense significance. Jamal felt a surge of relief, knowing that his voice had been heard. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at Westwood High began to change. Students felt empowered to speak up, each story a reminder of the strength that comes from unity. Dr. Robinson implemented new policies to ensure that every student felt valued and respected, her leadership a beacon of hope for those who had once felt silenced. Jamal continued to excel in his studies, his confidence restored and his spirit unbroken. He had faced a battle many would have shied away from, yet he emerged stronger, his resilience a testament to the power of courage and perseverance. His friends stood by him, their bond strengthened by the journey they had taken together. As he walked through the halls, Jamal felt a sense of pride and belonging he had never experienced before. He knew that he was no longer just a student at Westwood High. He was a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, change was possible. His journey was far from over, but he knew that with the support of his mother, his friends, and his own unwavering strength, he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. With Mr. Thompson on administrative leave, the atmosphere at Westwood High transformed. Jamal walked the halls with a newfound confidence, feeling the weight of his struggles slowly lifting. Other students began greeting him warmly, their attitudes a mix of admiration and newfound respect. For the first time, he felt he truly belonged. His journey had not only challenged his resilience, but had also inspired others to stand up against injustice, creating a sense of unity throughout the school. Dr. Robinson took this moment to reinforce her commitment to fostering an inclusive environment at Westwood. She held a school assembly, addressing the students and staff directly. Her speech focused on the importance of respect, equality, and the courage to speak up. She emphasized that every voice mattered and promised that the school would work diligently to ensure a safe, welcoming environment for all. Jamal sat among his peers, feeling a mix of pride and relief as his mother's words resonated through the auditorium. Meanwhile, the investigation into Mr. Thompson's actions continued. The school board interviewed students and faculty members, each testimony painting a clearer picture of Mr. Thompson's behavior over the years. Several students revealed that they, too, had felt targeted by him, particularly those who came from diverse backgrounds. The weight of their stories was undeniable, and the board felt compelled to take decisive action to prevent future incidents. At lunch, Jamal found himself surrounded by friends who had once hesitated to approach him. Sarah, ever loyal, smiled as she watched him interact with others. She had been his rock throughout the ordeal, and he was grateful for her unwavering support. The group shared stories, laughter, and dreams for the future, each of them bonded by the strength they had found together. Jamal realized that his journey had brought him closer to people who truly cared about him, creating friendships that would last a lifetime. Outside the classroom, Jamal found solace in the school's library, a place that had once been his refuge. He spent hours studying, but this time he wasn't escaping. He was pursuing his passions with purpose. His grades improved, his focus sharpened, and he even considered joining the student council to advocate for other students. His experiences had instilled a desire to bring about positive change, and he felt ready to lead. One afternoon, Dr. Robinson found Jamal in the library. She smiled as she watched him engrossed in his books, feeling immense pride in the young man he had become. Sitting beside him, she praised his resilience, emphasizing how proud she was of his strength. Jamal smiled, his heart warmed by her words. They talked about his dreams, his goals, and the ways he could continue making a difference. Their bond had grown stronger through their journey, and he knew she would always be there to support him. As the days went by, Jamal became a role model for others. Students began seeking him out for advice, sharing their own struggles and asking for guidance. He listened patiently, offering words of encouragement and empathy. He had come to understand the power of his voice, and he was determined to use it for good. He encouraged others to stand up for themselves, inspiring a wave of resilience and courage among his peers. Meanwhile, the school board reached a final decision regarding Mr. Thompson. After careful deliberation, they decided to terminate his employment, recognizing that his actions had violated the values of respect and inclusivity that the school aimed to uphold. Dr. Robinson received the news with a mixture of relief and satisfaction, knowing that justice had been served. The announcement of Mr. Thompson's departure brought a sense of closure, allowing the school community to move forward. With Mr. Thompson gone, Westwood High embraced a fresh start. Dr. Robinson implemented new programs that celebrated diversity, encouraged open dialogue, and promoted understanding among students from all backgrounds. She invited guest speakers, organized cultural events, and worked with teachers to create an inclusive curriculum. The school blossomed, its hallways filled with a vibrant energy and a renewed sense of unity. Jamal took on a leadership role in the school's diversity committee, working closely with his peers to organize events and create initiatives that foster respect and empathy. His experience had not only shaped him, but had given him a sense of purpose. He wanted to ensure that no one else would have to endure what he had faced. Through his efforts, he created a legacy of kindness and resilience that resonated throughout the school. One day, as he walked through the halls, he noticed a freshman struggling with a difficult assignment. Jamal approached him, offering guidance and support. The young student looked up to him with admiration, his eyes filled with gratitude. In that moment, Jamal realized how far he had come. He had transformed his pain into strength, his struggle into a source of empowerment. He was no longer the boy who had once been bullied. He was a leader, an inspiration to others. Jamal's journey had come full circle. He had faced adversity, stood his ground, and emerged stronger. His story had touched the lives of those around him, inspiring change and fostering unity. As he continued his journey at Westwood High, he carried with him a sense of pride, resilience, and hope. He knew that his voice mattered, and he was determined to use it to uplift others. Dr. Robinson watched her son with pride, knowing that he had not only survived but had thrived. Her heart swelled with gratitude as she witnessed the impact of his courage. Together, they had overcome prejudice and created a legacy of respect and kindness. Their journey was a testament to the power of resilience, love, and the unwavering strength of the human spirit. With the school year progressing, Jamal's life at Westwood High had blossomed. He was no longer an isolated figure. He was now a respected voice on campus. His work with the diversity committee brought him into contact with students and teachers alike, all united by a shared commitment to building a more inclusive environment. Jamal's journey had transformed him from a quiet new kid into a prominent student leader, inspiring those around him to embrace differences and stand up for justice. Dr. Robinson had continued to expand her initiatives, ensuring the school remained a safe and welcoming place for all. Her policies encouraged open conversations about race, respect, and empathy, sparking a school-wide movement of acceptance. She watched with pride as the students took ownership of the new culture, making Westwood High a place where every student felt they belonged. Jamal's experience had become a powerful example of resilience, inspiring others to reflect on their own behaviors and attitudes. One afternoon, Jamal was invited to speak at a school assembly. He took to the stage, his heart pounding but his voice steady as he shared his story with his peers. He spoke about the challenges he'd faced, the strength he'd found within himself, and the support that had helped him overcome adversity. His words were met with silence, each student listening intently. When he finished, the auditorium erupted in applause, a wave of admiration and support washing over him. Afterward, students approached him with words of encouragement and gratitude. Some shared their own struggles, inspired by his courage to be open about their own experiences. Jamal listened to each story, offering his support and encouragement. His journey had created a ripple effect, sparking change not only within himself but throughout the school. Westwood High had become a community bound by empathy and respect, each student contributing to the growing sense of unity. One day, Jamal received a letter from a former classmate named Marcus. Marcus had been one of the few students who had occasionally joined in on Mr. Thompson's taunts, hoping to avoid becoming a target himself. The letter expressed regret for his actions, apologizing for the pain he might have caused. Marcus acknowledged that Jamal's bravery had made him rethink his own behavior, prompting him to become a better person. Jamal read the letter in silence, feeling a sense of closure. His resilience had not only protected him, but had also inspired those around him to change. As the school year drew to a close, Dr. Robinson organized a cultural celebration day, a vibrant event filled with music, food, and activities representing the diverse backgrounds of the students. Jamal was asked to help coordinate the event, his leadership a key factor in its success. The celebration was a beautiful culmination of the school's journey, a testament to the unity and respect that had flourished under Dr. Robinson's guidance. During the event, Jamal felt a sense of pride and accomplishment as he looked around at the sea of smiling faces. The school had come together, each student contributing a part of themselves to create a shared experience. As he watched his peers laughing, dancing, and sharing stories, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. His journey had been difficult, but it had led to something beautiful. He had turned his pain into purpose, transforming Westwood High into a community of compassion and understanding. Dr. Robinson stood beside him, her eyes filled with pride as she observed the impact of their efforts. She knew that her role as principal was not only about enforcing rules, but about fostering a culture of kindness and inclusion. Her son's strength had been the catalyst for this transformation, and she couldn't have been prouder of the young man he had become. Together, they had overcome challenges, broken down barriers, and created a legacy of empathy that would endure long after they left Westwood. As the event drew to a close, Jamal gathered with Sarah and his friends, each of them reflecting on the journey they had taken together. They had grown closer, their bond strengthened by the trials they had faced. Jamal thanked them for their support, his heart full of gratitude. He knew that without them, he wouldn't have made it this far. They had been his pillars of strength, standing by him when he needed it most. Later that evening, as Jamal and his mother walked home, they shared a quiet moment of reflection. Dr. Robinson placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes filled with love and admiration. "You've come so far, Jamal," she said softly. "I'm so proud of you. You turned a difficult experience into something powerful. You made a difference, not only for yourself but for everyone around you." Jamal smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom," he replied, his voice full of emotion. "You gave me the courage to stand up for myself and for others. I'm grateful for everything you've done." As they walked in the fading light, Jamal felt a sense of peace. His journey at Westwood had taught him that strength and compassion could change the world one step at a time. His experiences had shaped him into a resilient young man, ready to face whatever the future held. The road ahead was filled with possibilities, and he knew that, with his mother's support and the strength he had found within himself, he was prepared for whatever came next. This was more than just the end of a chapter. It was the beginning of a new one. Jamal looked to the future with hope, knowing that he had the power to make a difference. His journey at Westwood High had been transformative, teaching him the value of courage, kindness, and the strength to rise above. With the cultural celebration day behind them, Jamal and Dr. Robinson reflected on the lasting impact their efforts had made at Westwood High. The school, once a place of silent struggles and hidden biases, had transformed into a vibrant, inclusive community where students felt empowered to speak up. The changes they had implemented were not just temporary fixes. They had planted seeds of respect and empathy that would continue to grow long after they were gone. As the final months of the school year unfolded, Jamal continued his work with the Diversity Committee, implementing initiatives that encouraged open dialogue among students. They organized peer-led discussions on topics like equality, cultural appreciation, and allyship. Each event brought the students closer, breaking down barriers and fostering genuine friendships. Jamal's leadership was instrumental in these efforts, his story inspiring others to embrace their own identities while respecting those of others. One afternoon, Dr. Robinson called Jamal into her office with a warm smile. She informed him that the district superintendent had heard about the changes at Westwood High and wanted to implement similar programs across the district. The superintendent was especially impressed with Jamal's leadership, recognizing the impact of his story. Jamal felt a swell of pride, realizing that his actions had resonated beyond his own school. His journey had become a beacon of hope and resilience for others. To celebrate the end of the school year, Westwood High organized a special assembly to honor students who had made a significant impact. Dr. Robinson took the stage, her gaze sweeping over the students with pride. She shared a powerful message about the importance of resilience, empathy, and the courage to stand up for what is right. Her speech acknowledged the struggles many students faced, emphasizing that no one should ever feel alone or silenced. As she concluded her speech, she called Jamal up to the stage, introducing him as a symbol of strength and positive change. The auditorium erupted in applause, each clap a testament to the respect and admiration his peers had for him. Standing before his classmates, Jamal felt a surge of emotion. His journey had been fraught with challenges, but it had led him to a place of acceptance and purpose. When he spoke, Jamal shared a heartfelt message about his journey. He expressed gratitude for his friends, his mother, and the support he had received from the school community. He encouraged his peers to stand together, to be kind, and to use their voices to lift each other up. His words resonated deeply, sparking a wave of inspiration among the students. The assembly ended with a standing ovation, and Jamal felt a sense of fulfillment that he hadn't known was possible. After the assembly, Jamal was approached by students and teachers who expressed their admiration for his courage. One student, a shy freshman named Ethan, shared his own story of struggling with acceptance and thanked Jamal for inspiring him to be proud of who he was. Jamal felt a deep connection to Ethan, recognizing the same vulnerability he had once felt. He offered words of encouragement, promising to be there if Ethan ever needed support. In the weeks that followed, Jamal's story spread beyond Westwood High, reaching other schools and communities. His experience became a catalyst for change, inspiring similar programs across the district. Dr. Robinson received messages from other principals who admired her leadership and were eager to implement her policies. Westwood High's transformation became a model for inclusive education, with Jamal's journey at the heart of its success. As summer approached, Jamal and his friends celebrated their last day of school with a mix of joy and nostalgia. They had endured challenges, grown together, and emerged stronger. Their bond was unbreakable, each of them shaped by the journey they had taken together. They made plans to stay in touch, promising to support each other no matter where life took them. That evening, Jamal and Dr. Robinson shared a quiet dinner, reflecting on the incredible journey they had experienced. Dr. Robinson looked at her son, her heart swelling with pride. "Jamal, you've not only changed the school, you've changed lives," she said softly. "I hope you know how proud I am of you." Jamal smiled, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. You taught me the importance of standing up for myself and for others. I'm grateful for everything you've done." Their conversation continued late into the night, each memory a reminder of the strength they had found within themselves and each other. Jamal felt a sense of peace, knowing that he had made a difference. His journey at Westwood had given him the confidence to face any future challenges, and he knew he would carry the lessons he had learned with him always. The next morning, as Jamal prepared to start his summer, he received a message from Ethan, the freshman he had encouraged. Ethan shared that he had found the courage to join the diversity committee, inspired by Jamal's story. Jamal's heart swelled with pride, realizing that his legacy would continue through others. His journey was far from over, but he knew that he had already made a lasting impact. Westwood High would remember him as more than just a student. He would be remembered as a leader, an inspiration, and a force for change. As he looked to the future, Jamal felt a profound sense of purpose. His story had become a legacy, one that would continue to inspire others to rise above prejudice and stand together in the face of adversity. Summer brought a sense of freedom, but Jamal's heart remained tied to the purpose he'd found at Westwood High. He spent his break volunteering in local community programs, working with younger students who faced challenges similar to his own. Many of them came from diverse backgrounds and had experienced prejudice or isolation. Jamal's story had reached them, and they looked to him for guidance, eager to learn how he'd found strength in adversity. One afternoon, as he led a workshop on resilience, he noticed a young girl named Maya listening intently. She approached him afterward, her eyes bright with admiration. "I want to be brave like you," she said, her voice filled with determination. Jamal smiled, kneeling down to her level. He told her that bravery came from being true to herself and reminded her that she wasn't alone. Maya's face lit up, and in that moment, Jamal realized the ripple effect his journey was creating. Meanwhile, Dr. Robinson's efforts to implement diversity programs across the district were in full swing. She collaborated with other principals, sharing Westwood High's transformation as a model. Her leadership had sparked a movement, and she began receiving invitations to speak at educational conferences. She used these platforms to advocate for inclusive policies that prioritize respect, empathy, and equal opportunity. Her dedication inspired other educators, and the district began embracing changes that empowered every student. As the new school year approached, Dr. Robinson received news that her work had earned her a special award for leadership in education. She was both honored and humbled, knowing that the recognition was a testament to her son's courage and the school community's resilience. She shared the news with Jamal, who beamed with pride. The journey they had taken together had not only changed their lives, but it also left an indelible mark on countless others. The first day of the new school year arrived, and Westwood High welcomed back its students with excitement and anticipation. The energy in the air was different. A sense of unity and purpose pulsed through the halls. Jamal, now a senior, walked through the doors with his head held high, feeling the shift that he and his friends had helped create. Students greeted him warmly, each exchange a reminder of the bonds they had forged. Ethan, the freshman Jamal had encouraged, had taken on a leadership role in the diversity committee, eager to carry on Jamal's legacy. The committee had expanded its efforts, introducing mentorship programs and peer support groups that ensured every student felt valued. Jamal was proud to see Ethan thrive, his confidence growing as he worked to create a supportive environment for others. Jamal knew that he could trust Ethan and his peers to continue the mission they had started together. At the first assembly of the year, Dr. Robinson addressed the students, her voice filled with pride and gratitude. She acknowledged the progress they had made, praising the students for their commitment to respect and kindness. She reminded them that they each held the power to create positive change, no matter their background or circumstances. Her words inspired a standing ovation, and Jamal felt a swell of pride, knowing he had played a part in the school's transformation. Throughout the year, Jamal continued to mentor students, sharing his experiences and encouraging them to pursue their dreams fearlessly. His story resonated with others, his strength a source of motivation for those who had once felt overlooked or misunderstood. He had become more than a student. He was a mentor, a role model, and a symbol of resilience for his peers. In the spring, the school hosted a district-wide symposium on diversity and inclusion, inviting students and educators to discuss their experiences and share ideas for creating inclusive environments. Jamal was asked to deliver the keynote speech, an honor he accepted with humility and gratitude. Standing before the crowd, he spoke from the heart, sharing the challenges he had faced and the strength he had found through the support of his friends, his mother, and his own inner resolve. As he concluded, Jamal's voice resonated with emotion. "We all have the power to make a difference," he said, his gaze sweeping over the audience. "It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Your voice matters. Stand up for what's right, support each other, and never let anyone make you feel less than you are. Together, we can build a world where everyone belongs." The audience erupted in applause, many moved to tears by Jamal's words. Dr. Robinson watched from the front row, her heart swelling with pride as she saw her son, now a young man filled with confidence and purpose. She knew that his journey had changed him forever, shaping him into someone who would continue to impact lives long after he graduated. After the symposium, students and teachers approached Jamal, each expressing gratitude for his courage and leadership. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his journey had sparked a movement that would continue to grow. The change he had fought for was now a part of the community's fabric, a testament to the strength that comes from standing together. As the school year drew to a close, Jamal prepared to graduate, his heart full of excitement for the future. He knew that his journey at Westwood High was ending, but his story was far from over. He had found his purpose, and he was ready to take the next step, confident in his ability to make a difference wherever life took him. Dr. Robinson watched him with pride, knowing that he would carry the lessons they had learned together into every aspect of his life. Their journey had been one of resilience, love, and transformation, and she knew that he would continue to be a force for good in the world. The day of Jamal's graduation arrived, filled with a mix of excitement, nostalgia, and pride. The sun shone brightly over Westwood High Stadium, where students gathered in their caps and gowns, their families watching from the stands. Jamal stood among his peers, feeling the significance of the moment. His journey had not been easy, but every challenge had shaped him into the person he was today, a person ready to embrace the world with resilience, compassion, and courage. Dr. Robinson sat in the audience, her heart full as she watched her son prepare to receive his diploma. She reflected on the path they had walked together, the trials they had faced, and the transformation they had helped bring to the school. Westwood High had become more than just a place of learning. It was now a community where respect and empathy flourished, thanks to Jamal's courage and her own commitment to fostering change. As Jamal's name was called, the crowd erupted in applause. He walked across the stage with his head held high, feeling the weight of his accomplishments. As he shook hands with the superintendent, he glanced toward his mother, meeting her proud gaze. Their silent connection spoke volumes, a testament to their shared journey. In that moment, Jamal felt a profound sense of gratitude for his mother's unwavering support and strength. He knew he couldn't have done it without her. After the ceremony, friends and family gathered around him, offering words of congratulations and encouragement. Sarah and Ethan approached him, their smiles reflecting the impact of their shared experiences. "You did it, Jamal," Sarah said, her voice filled with pride. "You changed the school and you changed us. Thank you for being a leader and a friend." Jamal hugged her, feeling the strength of their bond, one that would last long beyond the walls of Westwood. Ethan handed Jamal a small gift, a notebook filled with letters from students who had been inspired by his journey. Jamal's eyes filled with emotion as he flipped through the pages, each note a reminder of the difference he had made. Messages of gratitude and admiration filled the notebook, words from students who had found strength in his resilience. Jamal realized that his story had become a part of theirs, a legacy that would continue to inspire long after he was gone. Later that evening, Jamal and Dr. Robinson shared a quiet moment together at home, reflecting on all they had accomplished. They sat in the backyard under the stars, the night air filled with a sense of peace. Dr. Robinson turned to her son, her eyes filled with love and pride. "Jamal, you've made such a difference. Your courage has changed lives. I hope you know how proud I am of you and how much I believe in you." Jamal smiled, his heart filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. You taught me how to stand up for what's right, and you gave me the strength to believe in myself. I'm grateful for everything we've been through together." Their words faded into silence, each lost in their own reflections. Jamal looked up at the stars, feeling the weight of his journey and the promise of the future ahead. He knew he was ready to face whatever came next, armed with the strength and wisdom he had gained. The challenges he had faced at Westwood had prepared him for a life of purpose, one where he would continue to stand up for justice, inspire others, and create positive change. In the months that followed, Jamal went on to attend college, studying social justice and education. He carried his experiences with him, determined to make a difference on a larger scale. His story inspired others, and he quickly became a leader in his college community, advocating for inclusivity and respect. His journey had given him a voice, one he used to uplift others and bring about positive change. Back at Westwood High, Dr. Robinson continued her work, building on the foundation she and Jamal had created. The school's diversity programs expanded, inspiring other schools in the district to adopt similar initiatives. Dr. Robinson remained committed to her mission, knowing that her role extended far beyond academics. Her work had become a testament to her love for her son and her belief in the power of empathy and resilience. Years later, Jamal returned to Westwood High as a guest speaker, now a well-respected advocate for social justice and educational reform. He shared his story with a new generation of students, inspiring them to find strength in their own voices and to stand up for what was right. As he spoke, he felt the same sense of purpose that had guided him through his high school journey, a purpose that had only grown stronger with time. Dr. Robinson watched her son with pride, seeing in him the culmination of all their efforts. She knew that their story would continue to inspire others, a legacy of resilience, love, and transformation. Together, they had changed not only Westwood High, but the lives of countless others, leaving behind a legacy of hope and courage that would endure for generations. In the end, Jamal's journey was more than just a story of overcoming adversity. It was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her son. Their story was a reminder that even in the face of prejudice and hardship, one person's courage could spark a movement, creating a world where everyone felt valued and respected. And as Jamal looked out over the auditorium filled with students, he knew that their journey had only just begun.